Alright guys, fresh back from the shop, got the 40s mounted on here. These are 40 by 1550s on 20-inch rims, Federal Coragias. They're a little noisier than my Toyo RTs were, but they're really not that bad. If you follow the channel, you know I got a great deal on these. A Jeep owner got them and drove it to work for a week and realized he was going to have to re-gear in order to be able to use them because they were just way too much for his little 6-cylinder to handle. Luckily, this truck comes with 430s from the factory, so it rolls them just fine. Just a quick recap on the truck. It is an 03 Excursion. The front is lifted about 7.5 inches and the rear is up about 8. The rims are 20 by 10 grid GD06s. As I was making this video, I realized the scale really wasn't coming through in the video. Excursions are such big vehicles anyway that the tires don't really look as huge as they are. So I did add that basketball right there to the back of the front tire. That's a full-size basketball. That way you can tell, you know, the scale, the size of these tires. That privacy fence behind the Excursion is also a 6-foot privacy fence, so it is quite large. Before these 40s, I had a 37 by 1250 tire on here. I can go full steering lock to steering lock, no rubbing whatsoever. But these 40s are so much bigger, there is a ton of interference. So I'm going to show you how to fix all that. The 37s that were on here are now on my work truck. It's a 2014 Ram 1500, completely stock, and they do fit. With a couple caveats to that statement, they do have a slight bit of rub, but I'm going to make a separate video about that, but the largest tires you can get on here without a lift, if you wanted to see that. Alright, back to the Excursion. So when the repair shop called me, they said bring a Sawzall because it's bad. And after I get up there and look at it, they said they had to do like a 30-point turn to get out of the garage bay because they couldn't even get a half of a spin on the steering wheel with the tires before it was rubbing real bad. And I want to show you where it was rubbing. Alright, if you watch my other video tips and tricks and things I wish I knew before I lifted, then you know about the center pin being shifted forward in the nicer lift kits. So when that happens, then the larger tires, the first thing they're going to bump into is the bumper instead of the fender. So the nice thing about that is you can cut a whole lot out of the bumper and it really doesn't matter, as opposed to trying to cut into your fender over there, which I really don't want to do. So as you can see from the factory, this actually basically goes straight down right here, this plastic piece, and I cut that much off initially, and then I realized I needed quite a bit more, so then I pulled a couple more inches off. So I mean, that's a solid 3 or 4 inches right there that you take and cut off at an angle. If you see in here, you can see there's a support right there. I basically went all the way up to that support. It really doesn't cause any issues, so you can just take it out right there if you need more clearance. I did get into the chrome slightly right there, and once I'm done moving stuff around and figuring out how much space I need, I will do one final cut, but that's really not that bad for being done at dark in the shop parking lot with my angle grinder freehand. So I'm pretty okay with that. Like I said, I'll show you how to mark out and make a nice smooth radius through the whole thing on one of my other videos once I go to do it. Now, the reason why I can't do it yet is because I do have a little bit of rub right here. And if you see, you can see just a little bit on this fender where it's touching. It's not a huge rub, it's rubbing very lightly and only over bumps, but it is enough to be annoying. So I am going to shift the axle forward. If I shift the axle forward about 3/4 of an inch, it should take care of that entirely. So you may be asking, didn't the lift kit shift the axle forward already? Yes, it did, just not enough for 40-inch tires. There's a kit that does this called zero rate add-a-leaf, and you can basically move the axle forward 1 inch or 1.5 inches. I don't need it forward that much. I think 3/4 of an inch is going to take care of it just fine. So I'm just going to make my own. An additional issue with those is they shift the center pin on the bottom forward, but they don't shift the thing on the top. And if you read comments and stuff like that on forums, they say just to drill a new hole in the top plate. Well, the top plate is cast, and that means it's not going to bend when it fails. It's just going to snap and be gone. And if that happened, obviously your front axle would be free under the vehicle, which is a big problem. So I'm not going to do that because I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm going to make my own plate for the top and the bottom. That way they can both be shifted, and then the U-bolts and the stock stuff will all fit on it perfectly as it's supposed to. Went to my metal shop, picked up this 3-inch wide flat bar that is a 1/2 inch thick. And now 3 inches is how wide the forward leaf springs are. So what you're going to be able to do is drill a new 7/16 hole for the existing pin to go in, and then I'm going to go forward 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to drill a second hole, and in that second hole I'm going to put this rod through and have it welded completely and fill up the back and have it sticking out as my new alignment pin where it goes into the axle. I am going to make a video detailing this because it is quite a bit too much to go over right now. It's going to take me a couple hours to build it, obviously. So I'll make one of those for the top, one of those for the bottom, be able to shift everything forward 3/4 of an inch, then put all the factory hardware right back on there. That's the top bracket I was mentioning before. Like I said, it's cast, so if it failed, it's just going to snap off. It's not going to bend and get a little loose. So I definitely do not want to deal with that catastrophic failure going down the road. So shifting center pin forward is going to take care of right there where it's touching that inner fender. The other place it's touching is right there in my leaf spring and right there in my leaf spring. Now you could get wheel spacers that would take care of that, but the bigger your wheel spacers and the more the wheel sticks out, the more it swings when you turn it. So the more you have to take out of here or shift the axle forward, and the more you have to take out of the front bumper. So I really don't want to do that. I'd rather just lose a slight bit of turning radius. These things actually turn pretty darn tight from the factory anyway. And the way you do that is by adjusting the steering stop. They're not adjustable from the factory, but you can make some modifications to make them adjustable. If you see this right here, that's the factory steering stop, and it butts into that spot right there, and that's what makes it so you can makes it so the steering wheel knows where to stop when you're turning. So it goes all the way, butts into that for full lock. What you do is you drill and tap this right here, and then you just put a little bolt and screw in. Now that bolt, you can screw the head in all the way flush, and just the head of the bolt being there should give me enough clearance to clear these on the leaf springs. It would also be adjustable if you were doing something else. You could roll it out and make it even less turning radius, or if you went smaller tires in the future, you could just take it out completely and go back to factory. So moral of the story is you can't fit 40s under a 7 or 8 inch lift without some serious modifications. 2 videos coming up: the homemade axle shift kit to get the front axle move forward slightly more. I'll show you how to make that from scratch. And then the other video is the steering stop modification. That way you can set your steering radius to whatever you want and make it work. Thanks for watching. Those videos will be out later this month, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them.